Welcome to the Perspectives podcast powered by Personar. I'm Adrian Jones and I am your host, and I'm actually incredibly excited to talk to you all today. So welcome actually to the inaugural episode of the Perspectives podcast, where we embark on a journey to expand our horizons in both life and in technology. Our mission actually is to dive deep into facts, comprehend diverse viewpoints, and extract valuable lessons from each narrative, whether it's centered around latest tech innovations or life's intricate tapestry that we weave. So join us as we explore new perspectives and we grow together in understanding and in knowledge. So welcome to you all, and welcome to our first ever guest, our esteemed guest on the podcast, who really actually needs no introduction. Jost Capito is a respected figure in the automotive and motorsport industries with a career spanning over 3 decades. Throughout his career, he's held numerous prominent positions in various motorsport and automotive companies, including CEO of the Williams Formula One team, Managing Director of McLaren Racing, and also was the CEO of Volkswagen Motorsport team, as well as Porsche Motorsport, and also the Director of Ford Motorsport in Europe. He's won too many things to mention on this podcast, but he's won multiple championships across his whole career in many different racing categories. Also, Jost is known for his strategic vision, his leadership abilities, and he has a proven track record of driving innovation and business development. And he's also our senior advisor at Persona, which we are so very grateful and proud to have you with us today. Jost, welcome to the podcast. It is so great to see you. You look well. What have you been up to?
Yeah. So thanks, Adrian, for inviting me for your first podcast. It's a big honor for me, and welcome all the listeners and viewers to the podcast. It's a great honor for me to be here. So what I'm doing now, I officially retired when I left Williams, and I was approached by a couple of companies, especially tech startups, to advise, and I'm very honored to be able to advise Personar, and especially in their product TrackSwift that is great use and for Formula One teams already, and also going into other sports, and that's really fantastic to be part of your team.
Great. Well, we're honored, actually really honored to have you with us. And, the journey over the last year working with you has been fantastic. So thank you very much, Jost, for joining again today, and also the support you give us every day. When you look at your career, Jost, you've won so much in your life, from World Rally Championships to what you've been doing in Formula One. Give us your insight to what winning means sort of to you.
For me, winning means everything, and that's what. And I'm sure that came from my bringing up as a child. As when I was not even 10, I got a present from my father, like a small box that you could put on the shelf, and it was written on the second is the first loser, and that's how I was brought up. And we'll say winning is everything, but it's also you have to become a good loser. If you are not winning, you just has to make you try harder, and that's also from my first racing experience where I had to learn that, and where I learned it easily. Is when I started racing in enduro and motocross racing. I was part of the local motorsports club, and we had around 30 guys who were racing in enduro and motocross, and they were my good friends or best friends. And on the weekend, I had to race them, and they were my fiercest competitors. So there I learned that you have to divide between what's your real life and what is racing. In racing, you have fierce competitors, you are fighting, but can be friends. And so you spend time in your free time with them, and you enjoy being with them, and they are really good friends. But on the track, it's you fight. And I think that is not just in racing, it's also in the industry. If you want to do like me doing car products in the industry, I want to win all the tests with their products when they are on the market. So winning for me is really important if I am in the competition, but it's also if I'm not winning, I get the motivation to fight harder to get to the position to win.
Yeah. No, you've come from obviously probably some of the most competitive sports in the world, right? World Rally Championships, everything actually in motorsport, not just even Formula One. It's such a competitive landscape you live on. For me, going into the paddock, being privileged to be that side of the track, sometimes seeing how everybody talks to each other really well, and there's a camaraderie as such. But then when you get to the track side, and it's actually down to the competition, I've never seen rivalry so big in my life. It's incredibly strong. It's also when you're taking those big jobs, Jost, it's very lonely, right? I've obviously done big jobs in my career, ran lots of people. You've ran lots of people. Talk a little bit about that leadership journey around how lonely sometimes at the top and being in these very competitive positions. What's that like for you?
Yeah, you're right. If you are leading a big organization, they say the higher you get to the top, the lonelier you become. And
Right,
I think this is absolutely true, and you have to fight it. It's clear the higher you get, the more responsibility you have, and you are responsible for all the decisions taken, and you're responsible for what your colleagues are doing, and you can't control that every day. And it's not the task of a CEO or managing director to control everybody every day. It's getting everybody in the right mood, getting everybody excited and motivated to do the best possible job. And
right.
that means you have to form first a team that can follow the ideas and can understand the ideas, and you have to set the objectives. So only if everybody knows where to work to, they can do a really good job, and they have to be aligned with the overall strategy. Um, I think that it's most important that everybody is following. You can set the objectives, and everybody goes in the same direction.
Yeah, yeah, really great lesson. I can't really have this podcast before we get to sort of discussion around technology. I couldn't stop by myself by not touching on Formula One. It's obviously now one of the world's most watched sports, right? You've come from being CEO of Williams Formula One team to McLaren. You've been around the sport for a very long time. You're also now a Netflix celebrity, which is quite interesting for me talking to you. And then, so tell us a little bit the lens that you have and how you think that sport is changing, sort of where you think Formula One goes from here. Obviously, we can talk about the technology pieces because it is a technology sport, and so it'd be great to get your perspective on that too. But I think it'd be great to see sort of hear from you about where you think Formula One's headed now in general, around where you think sort of the sport will end up in the next few years, because there's been a lot of changes over the last few years too.
Yeah, I think you've seen the sport, especially Formula One, has been changing all the time. I'm involved in Formula One since the early 90s, and that I've
Right.
seen it over 30 years. But I was in and then I was out again, but I was always connected. So I've seen how it is changing. One thing that hasn't changed is the competition, that
Yeah.
Formula One is pure competition. Many people say it's just business and it's just all about money. Yes, you have to get the money to run the team, and the more professional you are, the better you can run the team, and the more investments you can do into the team, the better engineers you can get. And then but then when you're on track, then it's just pure sports with the engineering team. So the technical director doesn't worry about, he worries about not having enough money, but he
Right.
is not
Right.
involved in the general business. And so is the race engineers, and so are the drivers. So the guys who have to deliver on track have to fully focus on what happens on track, and to become the most competitive on track. What is
Mm.
yeah, all the resources that the company offers have to be used in the most efficient and proper way. Um, and that makes it a pure sport. So there is no balance of performance. So the best team and the best driver with the best car and the best engineer wins. And if they win year after year, then they win year after year. There is no regulation that puts them back to become less competitive, like it is in many other motorsports nowadays. And I think there is no will to change this. So that means Formula One will always be highly competitive, and in the future as well, and will be a proper sport, and where technology develops quickly and the teams develop quickly. And
Right.
I think that is the right direction. Also, when you look at when new regulations come, the next time it's 2026 with new regulations, especially with new engine regulations as well, where there's a chance for new manufacturers to come in. And then the teams have to focus 1 to 2 years ahead on how the car should look like with new regulations, as that's then the chance to catch up for the teams who are not in the front row actually now.
And do you think, Jos, that will happen? I mean, we've obviously seen a massive dominance, obviously, last 2 years with Red Bull. We saw that with Mercedes before, Schumacher days with Ferrari, etc. Do you think some of those other teams will get a chance to become up the front of the pack now with some of these new regulations coming in?
With the new regulation, there's always a chance. I don't
Yeah,
think that the teams who are in the back right now can become dominant then from 26, as the resources aren't there and the
right,
infrastructure isn't there. Even there is the cost cap in place, and I believe the cost cap is absolutely necessary, but it doesn't make the teams equal right away. It will take, I assume, a decade until that will be more balanced, as the infrastructure of the big teams is so much bigger and so much more effective and efficient than of the
right,
small teams. So that will take a couple of years. But within the top teams, we'll say the top 4 or 5 now, there is absolutely the chance to change the hacking order with the new
right.
regulations in 26.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting, right?
Yeah.
So F1 obviously is we've talked about it before, but big technology sport. Obviously, there's I think what 200-300 IP addresses on a Formula One car collecting data every single lap. And so when you sort of take this theme of technology, now we see AI everywhere. Apparently, everybody is an AI company now. And that's me being probably sarcastic, but everybody in the world now seems to have become an AI company. Obviously, for us at Persona, we've created an AI technology called TrackSwift, where in sports in particular, teams like Formula One teams are using our technology to now make mission critical decisions in a race with our product. You've seen that in action. Give us a little bit of your perspective on TrackSwift as a technology that we obviously create for Formula One, and how you think that's sort of changing the game a little bit.
Yeah, I've seen TrackSwift developing over the last years. When I was at Williams, so just came up, and I have seen the idea, and I've seen what you were working on. And I've seen that this is a big chance, and it's a great way to become more competitive and to become more to get to more information about the others. Because so TrackSwift is converting the voice of all the race drivers and their engineering. So all the radio communication between the car and the team is translated, let's say, taken from the voice into the text. And then the team can specially define who should get which text. And there can be keyboards and the old technology was you have for the 18 other drivers, you have 18 people sitting there over the weekend and just typing what they listen to with a huge, of course, that's the quality of the radio is not good. So it's difficult to understand. And a human does a lot of mistakes there because it just hears it once and then has to write it down. And to automate this and to put that into an AI technology that limits and reduces the say the mistakes and the errors by nearly all, as the listening is much better and the system learns from itself, so it gets better and better by itself. And say especially through last year, having seen the TrackSwift really getting to perfection and making the difference to race results, as people get the information, the right people get the right information from the competitors immediately and then can react immediately. As in Formula One, it's so important to react immediately. So you don't have time to think. If you see what others are doing, then you have to react. And in the past, you had to react when you saw what others are doing. Now, with the radio communication and TrackSwift, you know what they are doing before they actually are doing it, and you can respond at the same time. Before they do something, you can do something, as you know they're discussing it over radio, and you can follow that. And that is a great step forward. And I think the new version coming up this year, even better. I think it's a must for every race team, not just Formula One team, but for every race team that can follow the radio communication of their competitors.
Yeah, well, you couldn't even say. I can't even say it better than you. I mean, you've really been a major advocate for us in TrackSwift at Persona. But what's so great is your passion and your energy in what we've designed as a technology for not just Formula One, but for motorsports, and now moving into potentially in football organizations and other organizations, even potentially the product moving into emergency services where we're helping, first responders in the field get information flow much more quicker, much more expedient in their processes they have to go through. It's a game changer. And so we're really excited about it. And so thank you for, first of all the support you give us at Persona with TrackSwift. It's been fantastic. Your input has really made the product, in my view, where it is today. So thank you for that, Jost. AI technology in general is increasing. If you look at sports overall, do you see that increasing not just in Formula One, but across all sports? Are you seeing that sort of from your lens around AI technology is becoming more sort of proficient in what you see in sports today?
I think the AI will get bigger and bigger in every person's life,
Yeah.
and it will influence everybody's life, and especially in sport, where is the highest competition. And when you look at Formula One, you have to evolve all the time, and this is where Formula One is known for the highest speed of technical development. And AI is at the top of technical development right now, and it's collecting all the data and taking then decisions based on the data that a human can't do anymore. So I see AI as a tool, not designing the car itself, but used as a tool to improve in all kind of areas. Just collect all the information and put them in a logic way to be able to take decisions. And then, of course, the human have to check, is that the right decisions? But I think as further it will develop, the humans will see that AI take the right decision, and then just let it go and live with that decisions, and focus on different things, focus on even more technical development or infrastructure development or whatever. So I think the development speed will be massively improved through AI. And AI may not take the main decisions, but it will take all the decisions that a machine can make and leave the humans the space to be more innovative.
Yeah, no, I agree. Do you think, Jost, in your lens of how you see, particularly Formula One, Formula One's a very regulated sport, right? There are so many regulations. I think the manuals are, 50, 60 pages long on regulations for Formula One from FIA, etc. AI is now being sort of talked about globally around the world, around governments regulating AI companies, making sure that AI is safe. Do you see that also encroaching into sports teams like Formula One, where they may regulate how much AI is in the sport, for example?
I believe AI in general has to be regulated, like everything has to be regulated, isn't it? It doesn't,
Right.
because AI can be very useful, very helpful, but if it is in wrong hands, and it can be wrong badly, it can be also be not beneficial for humans. So it can be used in a bad way, like everything. And I don't think regulations can stop that, but there should be a guideline how AI can be used and what where AI develops. And of course, over time, that has to be adjusted. And when we look at Formula One, there's already a regulation of how many data you are allowed to use in your calculations, in your CFD, and so on. So I'm sure AI will become part of that. And that again, it helps the AI programs and the AI technology, because it has to become more and more efficient. Because if you limit the data usage, then the data you use have to be used in the most efficient way. So I think these regulations will push development and not hinder development.
Yeah. No, you're right. And I think it's going to be very interesting for us, certainly as an AI company, to see how that progresses, because we're already hearing from the work we do in governments that AI is going to get more regulated, etc. But it'll be interesting to see if that proliferates more into sports like Formula One. The question for you. So it's interesting. You spent most of your career in four-wheeled vehicles and everything else. I've heard that you actually prefer two wheels versus four, and so I heard that you actually have more motorcycles potentially than even cars. Is that so? Tell us a little bit about that. Is that true?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I started riding motorbikes when I was 6 years. And at that time, it were not the small motorbikes, because they were not around at that time, because that's nearly 60 years ago. Uh, so
Right.
I started learning on sidecars and on big motorbikes. And I got the passion for this, and that I raced a couple of years in enduro and in motocross. And I still love the two wheelers, because they are made for going around corners, where four wheels you have to push and force it to a corner. And the
Right.
motorbikes, they just naturally go. So that's why I really enjoy going on motorbikes. And you can have, for one sports car, you can have a couple of motorbikes
Right.
that you enjoy in different environments. So that's what I really love. Yeah.
And I've heard you actually have more motorbikes than cars today, right? You have more motorcycles, I think.
Yeah, that's not so difficult because I don't have lots of cars. So
Okay, interesting. So, Jos, a little bit more sort of on the personal side, switch from sort of Formula One, but what would you say has been your sort of biggest career highlight? What's been your biggest career highlight for you?
yeah, I think when I look back, there have been a couple that are really memorable, but I think the most that makes me most proud is the win of the truck category of the Paris Dakar in '85 with my father in the truck and my brother and a friend in the second truck as the support team. So just being four people in the team in the Dakar, at that time in Africa was 13,000 kilometers in 3 weeks.
Wow.
That was really tough. And to be successful and beat the factory teams with a complete 100% private team, just having a couple of friends helping to build the car and to for doing the preparation, and then being just four for 3 weeks in the desert, that's great team building. It puts the family relationships to the edge. I would say if you're
I'm
three
sure.
weeks with your father in the truck, it's not so easy,
Right.
easy either. But teaches you a lot of lessons as you have to do all kind of jobs that are done in a race team by your own, and you learn how hard everything is. And then being successful and being on the podium in the Dakar was something I think nothing else could catch up with.
Amazing. And you didn't just do it once, right? You did it multiple times, didn't you?
Yeah, I did it 4 times.
Four
One in
times.
the Toyota
Wow.
Land Cruiser, one for a movie as the stuntman for motorbike, on the
Wow,
motorbike,
I didn't know that part.
and
Stuntman.
then
You were a
twice in a
stuntman
truck.
in a movie? Really?
Yeah, yeah, it was in a movie. It was in a cinema movie, and that was a very special experience as well. So being part of creating a cinema movie and being an actor as well and being a stuntman in that movie was quite interesting,
Wow.
and was
I knew
also
you were sorry, I
yeah.
knew you were a Netflix star. I just didn't know you were a movie star as well. That's pretty amazing.
That's so long ago, and I think the movie was underrated as it had to be taken all parallel to the Dakar. So that was a
Wow.
story, but it had to be taken every single day during the Dakar. And if something would have failed, the movie would have been dead. So there would not have been a movie. So that was my hardest Dakar. Was really this, having a team with 20 people, and only the director and me have ever been at the Dakar, and then having 18 people who had to work, like cameraman, then truck drivers. We had a helicopter, we had a truck with kerosene, 10 to 10,000 liter kerosene, driving through the desert, and having that responsibility at the age of, was it 24,
Wow.
was quite big. And it was the toughest Dakar, as you had to drive every single kilometer, but you had a team you had to stop to take pictures, and at that time the cameras were in GoPros. They were really huge.
Right, right, yeah, right.
That was in '84, so it was really really huge material, and it needed a lot of work to prepare every taking and every filming, and in the
That,
camp and on the way. So it was my toughest Dakar, was this.
that's amazing. I actually didn't know that. And that's a new fact I've now known about you. Can we get to know what the name of the movie was? Is it still available to go watch? You on the stunt bike somewhere?
Yeah, I don't find it anywhere. I tried
Really?
to find it. Even my kids haven't seen it yet.
Ah, that would have
I
been
had
fun.
a VHS, but there is no VHS player around anymore where I can get it.
Ah,
And it was called Rally Paris Dakar,
Rally
and
Paris
it
Dakar.
came to the
Okay.
movies in '85. So,
Because anyone listening today knows finds Rally Paris Dakar, please let us know. It would be
yeah,
fantastic. We'd love to
please,
see
yes.
it. And Jost would definitely like to see it too. Jost, that's great. So let me ask you another question a little bit about your career. And obviously, you've been the best at what you do. But in that career, who sort of has influenced you the most, you think, in your time in all of the things that you've been doing in your career?
Yeah, there were multiple people on the technical side and also on the management side. And as you mentioned before in the introduction, I've been in a couple of places where I experienced a lot of different leaderships. So at the beginning of my career, I wanted to work for Paul Roche, who was the main engine guy who did the BMW Formula One engine, the Formula Two engine, and I wanted to work for him. So I went to Munich to university, joined the club where all the BMW guys were in, and got my diploma work at BMW M. And then during my diploma work, I got employed. So I fought hard, but I finally could work for Paul Roche, what was my big dream. And
Wow.
from there, I went more on the management side and met a couple of really good managers when I worked for Sauber Petronas Engineering. And Petronas is a government-owned Malaysian company. And I was really impressed and learned a lot about their leadership. They had a couple of leaders, they were absolutely excellent. It was how they motivated, how they treated people, but also how they set objectives and how they follow that up. And I learned really good lessons with them. But then I moved on. When I was at Ford, it was Louis Booth and it was Martin Leach, who I learned a lot from, were great leaders. And especially how to treat people, how to build up teams, and how to create trust within a team, and how to create loyalty. Where many people say loyalty is just you give to a company. No, the company has to create that loyalty. So, and then you can trust your people, and that is very important. And I
Yeah.
learned that especially with Petronas and with Ford.
Yeah. No, it's a great lesson. I totally agree about trust and loyalty. And also, I think it's about trying to create not just commitment with people that you work for you, but how do you sort of create this emotional bond with them around managing sort of expectations and everything else. As you look at your sort of career, etc., and how you've managed your own expectations, how do you sort of manage expectations of sort of the others that you work with, Jost? How do you sort of lead those people? What's sort of your style around leadership, etc., around that?
I think what I learned in my leadership is that you first have to expect and more from yourself than from anybody else you're working with. So you have to be willing to deliver more, to work harder, to work long more time, and so you have to lead by example. And I think that's a difference between a leader and a manager. And then you have to create the objectives so that everybody knows what is expected, and they have to agree to those objectives. And then you can build a team around you that you trust and they trust in you. And you have to be authentic, and you have to be loyal to your employees as well. And then you can create objectives that are not just easy, that everybody wants stretched objectives then, and wants to prove that they can fulfill, and do that together. But as a leader, you have to take responsibility for the good times and also for the bad times. And I think you have to back up your team, and you have to stand behind your team. And if something goes wrong, then you take the responsibility and not look at people what's wrong, but look at the processes. Why could something go wrong? I think that was also a main lesson. If something goes wrong, it's not that people want to do a mistake, it's the processes that allow that something goes wrong. And then you have to fix the processes and not the people.
Yeah, no, well said, well said. And I think you're right. There's a lot of lessons, obviously, in leadership we all can take from, your career is obviously massive, and you've seen many different ways to lead and motivate people. Now that you're sort of well, I don't really believe actually you're in completely retirement, but now that you're in retirement, what is your passion now? What sort of inspires you as you get out of bed each day? What's sort of your inspirations of what you're looking for now in this next sort of phase of your life as such?
What really inspires me is to support young and small startups. And I love to be at the forefront of technology, been that all my life, and I love working with people, and I love networking, and I see a lot of opportunities with the startups if to bring the startups together with other areas of the industry, with other people, and then see that it works, and see that there are relationships created, opportunities created, new technology created. I think I'm still really excited about that. And I think that what I can do now without running a company, not being responsible for day-to-day work of a 800 or 1,000 people company where you have all kind of HR issues, finance issues, and. So I can focus on what I believe I'm really good at bringing people together and enjoying the development of new technologies. And also spend more time on the motorbikes. As you mentioned, I have a
Right,
couple,
right.
so I couldn't ride them recently in the recent years because I've been too busy in the job. But now I can do this and still um, improve technology and we'll say establish new business relationships.
Yeah, that's great. So you can have your passions on what you like with startups and technology, and obviously enjoy your life more now riding motorcycles and things that really inspire you every day, which is fantastic. My last question, Jost, is you've learned a lot in your career and in your life. What is it that you value the most, and what is it you value the least?
I think the most I value is the relationships I created. And I'm still good friends with many guys at Porsche, where I've been 30 years ago, and at Ford, and wherever I have been, I still have really good friends, and these created friendships over decades, and they never stop. So that makes me really proud. I think that's what I really appreciated through all my career. And the least is, well, and I never look back, so I only remember the good things and learn from the good things and never look back, not doing anything but I have done, try to do this again, because there's so much more to do. um with the less, I really don't know, because I don't remember them. And I take them out of my memories.
Yeah, right, right. No, that's great. Well, listen, Jost, it's been amazing to talk to you. I've learned a lot more. I didn't even know today that you were a stunt actor in a movie, so that's a new one for me. I can't thank you enough for the support you give us, obviously, at Persona every day, and the inspiration and the passion you have sort of working with us every day. It's fantastic. Thank you for joining me on our first podcast. I really enjoyed the conversation. You're definitely an inspiration to many. It's been fantastic to talk to you. So thank you so much for joining.
Yeah, thank you, Adrian. Really an honor for me to be in your first podcast. And I'm really excited about our future together at Personar to bring this technology up and improve the technology for all kind of sports teams, but also on the, we'll say, the emergency services. I believe this software can save lives, uh, even in a short term. And that makes me really proud. And I'm pushing hard, supporting you to get there. So thank
Great.
you very
Thank you
much,
so much,
everybody,
Jost.
for listening to.
Thank you so much. And thanks to everybody to listening today. We really appreciate it. Thank you. See you soon, Jost.
Thanks, Adrian. See you soon.
Thanks to you all for listening today. Please remember to subscribe to our Perspectives channel. We have many more guests to come, so stay tuned for more. See you soon.